Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Franklin. And let me first and foremost apologize. I thought that we actually had good audio and good video to be able to transmit this live feeding. And it turns out that we had good video, but the audio wasn't there. So I did a few tests with a friend and made sure that he was able to hear me. So I believe we have corrected that issue. And so I want to apologize to those who tune in and weren't able to actually hear what we were saying. And it's unfortunate that we had Hector Rodriguez on the phone with us. We weren't able to get him online on video, but we had him on the phone, and he was discussing and talking about a lot of very important information. And it's unfortunate that we weren't able to hear much of that. But I did get somebody else to come in and help me test this audio. But first, let me go ahead and tell you about why I'm doing this. So as we all know, we all are home bound because of the situation currently going on. And so some of you may know me from two prior shows. I produced the DC Statehood Today show and the DCiReporter. And so I had a lot of the expertise and technology in place. So I figure I'll just put together this little studio here at home so I can communicate with people. So this is my way of maintaining communication with the people outside, just like everybody else is doing. So I wanted to first, one thing that I did earlier today in the prior recording that you weren't able to hear is wish everybody a happy Palm Sunday. And I know that it's a lot of people would wish to be outside instead of being home in using technology to get to their churches. I hope you do that, and that you abstain from going outside into churches where mass people gatherings take place. I heard of incidents in places where as many as 70 to 80 people got infected with the coronavirus because they attended a mass service. So we want to make sure that we all have an opportunity to worship our God, but that we also maintain our health, and that's important. So please stay home and use technology to do your praising. I think God is everywhere, and so it's good to be able to connect with others, but you can do that in today's world with all the technology we have. So with that said, let me go ahead and turn it over to my good friend, Harold Thomas. Now, Harold Thomas is a lone advocate for DC statehood, and one of the issues that we talked earlier with Hector Rodriguez is this terrible situation that the District of Columbia has gone through, where the Congress decided to treat the District of Columbia as a territory, and because of that, it cheated the city on millions of dollars. And Harold Thomas is part of the DC statehood, the Veterans for DC Statehood movement, and they, more than anybody else, can talk about what it means to be disenfranchised and what it means for them to lose out on all this funding, because in a way, what that funding, the absence of that additional funding does is it puts everybody at risk here in the District of Columbia. So Mr. Thomas, how are you doing today? Tell me first, how are you coping with this situation?
Yeah, well, I'm good. Thanks to the good Lord. I'm healthy, and my family's all well and safe. And I'm just hoping and praying that everybody survives this pandemic that we're going through now. But put your faith in God, and we'll be all right.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me, what is your thought on this idea that the District of Columbia is getting less than half of the funding that it should be getting from the federal government for the stimulus package?
I think it's a great injustice, to the citizens and residents of Washington D.C. We contribute the majority of the services, from our tax revenue, property tax, income tax, and sales tax, that the city operates on. And in terms of the federal money is the same, that all cities and states get from the national government by and large. DC gets no special physical treatment from the federal government. Among other things, this is important to know for anyone who care about DC statehood. If most of what we spend comes from us through taxes and fees on residents, businesses, and visitors, it's a sign that we're ready to manage our own affairs as a state. And we should not be denied. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So, and that light, DC deserves and demands statehood. Now, here's a veteran who advocates statehood for DC. I fought to preserve the rights and privileges that we share as a nation. And I come home to DC where my other fellow veterans have given their lives up in the wars to defend the rights and privileges of this country. And we are denied these same rights and privileges here in DC. So, by those reasons alone, I'm an advocate for statehood for DC. And I employ all veterans, wherever you might be, to come together and support our advocacy for statehood for DC. We're all veterans, and we fought together. We died together, and we sleep together in the graveyards. So it's a one thing for all for one for all, and all for statehood for DC. And that's my advocacy as a veteran, for DC statehood.
Yeah, and that is so very important because the funding that we should be getting, it would be so very needed at this point, at this moment in time. And so it couldn't have been at a worse time for them to be playing games with DC. And now we suspect that the reason why they actually did this is because there's a very, very high likelihood that DC statehood would be voted on in the House of Representatives with a positive vote coming up soon when everybody resumes regular business work. And I think that this is probably a way to get to DC and saying we're not in support of you becoming a state.
Yes. Now, one of the things that I would ask all veterans, to do it in unity, regardless of where you live, what state you live in a unified effort, contact your congressional representative and ask them what is their position on statehood for DC. This is an election year coming up, and then there are future election years. You got family members. If you're a veteran in DC, you have family members who live in other states who are veterans. Call upon them to support our struggle and our quest for statehood for DC. Contact your elected representative and ask them what is their position on statehood for DC. That way we can develop a strategy to find out who is in support and who is not. Those who are not in support, then we'll answer them at the ballot box. And, that's what I am asking all veterans to take part in this initiative.
Wonderful.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your service. We're very appreciative of all that you have done for our country and you continue to do. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. I wanted to move on now and talk about the press conference that we heard from President Trump yesterday. It was very disturbing to me to hear President Trump right next to experts in the medical field talk about advising people to take on medicine as if he was a doctor. I don't know where he received his PhD in medicine to be talking about like a doctor. Wanted to play you this quick quote here from the press conference that took place. And incidentally, what we're doing right here is we're really just testing today to see if we can get this all the technology in place. But I wanted to play an excerpt from the press conference that took place yesterday, and it was where President Trump talks about how he believes people should be self-medicating themselves. And I just found it very odd that the president would do this right after a leading doctor tells him or tells the nation that they shouldn't be doing this. I just found this incredibly out of place. So let me just play for you right here this quick clip here. It's at 107. Let me just find it real quick here. 107. All right. Well, here's Dr. Speaking.
Something that is now being looked at, but we don't have any data to be able to say anything definitively. And I hope they use the hydroxychloroquine, and they can also do it with Z-Pak, subject to your doctor's approval and all of that. But I hope they use it because I'll tell you what do you have to lose? In some cases, they're in bad shape. What do you have to lose? It's been out there for a long time, and I hope they use it. And they're going to look at with doctors, work with doctors, get what you have to get. But we have it stockpiled, and we have a lot of it, and we're getting more of it. And as I told you, I spoke to Prime Minister Modi. We're getting more of it, but we have a lot of it. And I hope they use it because it's been used for a long time, and therefore it's passed the safety test. FDA has been terrific. Dr. Hahn, I appreciate it very much too. But I've seen some results. Now, it's early, I guess. It's early, but they should look at the lupus thing. I don't know what it says, but there's a rumor out there that because it takes care of lupus very effectively, as I understand it, it's a drug that's used for lupus. So there's a study out there that says.
Okay, let me play you this other piece here where he actually continues on the same path of this reckless recommendation, 131.54.
Okay, I didn't hear any of that you just played.
Yeah, it's online. People can hear it. Let me just put in here this 137. 137. Yeah, let me go ahead and play this real quick. 131 actually, 54. 131.
So I don't want to get them there. There's a possibility. And I say it. What do you have to lose? I'll say it again. What do you have to lose? Take it. I really think they should take it. But it's their choice. And it's their doctor's choice or the doctors in the hospital. But hydroxychloroquine, try it if you'd like. The other thing, if you have a heart condition, I understand, probably you stay away from the Z-Pak. But that's an antibiotic. It can clean out the lungs. The lungs are a point of attack for this horrible virus.
Okay, yeah. So I think a lot of you heard, and some of you, if you didn't watch the press conference, I'm sure you have seen it somehow.
Man, TV for 9 days. I had one channel, and that was bounced for 9 days. My service was messed up until today when
Got it.
I had Comcast to come
Yes, and so I'm sure that a lot of you have, if you haven't seen it, if you didn't see it again, I'm sure that a lot of you have actually either heard people talk about it or have read something that was written about it. And so it is very, very disturbing to have the President of the United States right next to physicians and go against what the physicians recommend. Very, very disturbing. And also the Commission on this crisis has recommended that you cover your face in public. And the president was asked at the press conference if he would engage in covering his face, and he said no. That he said he downplayed it, saying that it was a voluntary thing, that you could do it if you wanted to, that he chooses not to do it because he wouldn't want to, conduct meetings with presidents, all other heads of states. It just would look funny to him, and therefore he wouldn't engage in it. And so I think that the reason why some of these doctors are saying that we should engage the practice of covering your face is because they believe that the exposure to the virus could potentially be in the air. If as an infected person walks by, perhaps the virus could stay in the air for a short time, and therefore it would probably be a good thing to cover your face. Now, they're not going as far as saying that you should all cover your face with N95 masks. And I think the reason why they're going short of saying that is because they fear that there'd be a panic for everybody trying to get those masks, and there wouldn't be enough for everybody. And then at the end, it'll end up hurting those who need it most. The people in the medical practice would be without them because everybody would want them. And I think that's the reason why they're going short and not saying that you should get those N95 masks. But clearly, this is something that they're recommending that you should do, and it's a shame that the president is not, as an example, lead by example himself, using a mask when he goes out. Even if it was a homemade mask, I think it would be a good thing for him to do. And so I think that we tested the audio equipment. I've gotten some feedback here saying that people can now hear me. Earlier when I did the first test, people had a hard time listening to me or hearing me, and they could see me, but they couldn't hear me. It seems like they can all hear me now. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to end this broadcasting with an incredibly nice video that was sent to me earlier today via WhatsApp. WhatsApp is an application that a lot of international people use. It's not so, I don't think it's as common by the people, the non-international community in the US, but it is very, very popular. And so I got this video today. It's a song that talks about Christ's promise to you and how he is going to keep it, that you should have no worry that he will keep those promises. I think it was just such a beautiful song. I think it was sung by three ladies from the Dominican Republic. I'm not sure because they don't say where they're from, but at the end they say a few words, and I think they sounded like they were Dominicans. So I wanted to leave you with that song because I think it was just such a beautiful piece that was sent to me today, and I wanted to share it with you. Let me go ahead and find it and play it for you. Let me just say that. All right. Let me go ahead and put it here. All right.
Son apoyo poderoso de mi fe, mientras luche aquí buscando yo su luz, siempre en sus promesas confiaré. Grandes, fieles, todas las promesas que el Señor ha dado, grandes, fieles. Yo por siempre confiaré. Todas las promesas del Señor serán gozo y fuerza en nuestra vida terrenal. ellas en la dura lid nos sostendrán y triunfar podremos sobre el mal. Grandes, fieles, todas las promesas que el Señor ha dado. Grandes, fieles. En ellas yo por siempre confiaré.
Amén.
Amén.
Dios le bendiga.
Bendiciones para cada uno.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for taking your time to listen to me. Those of you who made the live broadcasting, I want to thank Mr. Thomas. Thank you so much for being. Are you still there, Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with me on this trial. We're just trying to test the equipment, make sure that the audio and the video and the lighting works so that we can use this technology now that we need it so much so we can continue to communicate. I know that it's not the same as being out there with people because I'm used to going to 2 or 3 different events every evening, but this is as close as we can get, ensuring that we stay safe and that we encourage others to do the same. Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.
Now, before I let you go, the playing field is level. We were all, confronted with the same, handicaps, for the campaign. But one thing that I want to reiterate is that when we were down at the event that the Congresswoman sponsored, when we were doing the event down at the Rayburn building, when the bill was introduced, was voted on or whatever, for statehood for DC. It was stated that the original 13 colonies were 13 original states. And 37 other requests to become a state came in, and it didn't take a ratification of the Constitution to admit them into the Union. So that 37 additional add-ons to the 13 colonies, the original 13 states, made the 50 states. Now, D.C. is requesting to become the 51st state, and it didn't take a congressional or constitutional ratification for those other 37 requests to become states to be admitted. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to make note of that, okay?
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Mr. Thomas, again, for your time and your contribution to everything that you do for us. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. I'll talk to you later. Get back with me.